Here's the big question.
How are agents like us,
who didn't get an opportunity to invest in a franchise early,
who are spending time and money to sell homes,
building someone else's saleable asset?
How do we grow a business but still build wealth?
Have an exit strategy,
and get a piece of the pie that's not dependent
on us working more hours and every weekend?
That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer.
My name is Jay Kinder.
My name is Al Stasek.
And I'm Michael Reese. We are your hosts, and welcome to the One Big Fire Podcast.
Welcome everybody to our top 200 interviews. This is really my favorite segment because I get to interview our top leaders at EXP that are growing the biggest revenue share groups and having the most success within EXP and share the secrets. How are we doing it? How is it that you're able to grow such a big group here within EXP? I'm here with my good friend Dan Rojas. Dan, how are you doing, my friend?
What's up, Jay? How are you? I know you're living the life up there down in Puerto Rico, right?
You know what, man? It is. I try not to take it for granted. Every day hit the walk. You know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful place, and just fortunate to be here, man. I love it, and fortunate thanks to EXP. So I'm glad that we're here to share what's working and hopefully inspire some folks to grow their own revenue share, right? So let's talk through the numbers. How long have you been in the company, Dan?
2 years. We just actually hit the 2-year mark last month. Actually, this month, technically, if you want to do our reset date, April 1st.
Yep. Okay. So been here now 2 years. And what is your FLA, FLQA count?
FLQA as of right now is 19. Will be 20 this week. And our total org size is pushing 168, 170 right now.
Nice. So, that's awesome, man. Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah. And so let's talk about it's incredible how it grows. It really is. And it feels like you're kind of pushing a ball up a hill for a little while and then all of a sudden things start to happen. So I really kind of want to unpack what your journey has been like. And in the beginning, what was it that you did to get momentum? To get things going and start, as you started off, what was the things that you did that worked for you?
So it's funny because we had actually started talking, one of my business partners, Andrew Brooks, and I had actually started talking about doing like a team, a recruitment, something of that nature at Exit, right? Because they paid one level down. And I was not interested in it whatsoever. I was like, I'm not about it. I can make so much more money just doing production. This is crazy. That's not worth my time. And then, of course, Gil was like, let's go take a look at EXP. And as soon as we did that, I was like, my mindset shifted and changed. And I was like, Andrew, let's rediscuss this topic that you had brought up. And when we moved over, we had a small team of I think it was like 9 or 10 of us originally. So that was kind of like the jumping point.
Yeah.
But as we started seeing the rev share checks, I was like, how can we do this differently? How can we set this up? And one of the key points that we kind of started with was looking at you guys, right? Was looking at the people who were successful and how they did it. And it wasn't about reinventing the wheel. It was just about simplifying it and applying it to our everyday practice. So we partnered up with Sean Romano as well, who's like a digital video guru, right?
Right.
And so he actually is our main attractor, which is really funny. He talks to everybody and anybody. He likes to EXP all over everyone, which we tell everyone not to do.
Right.
But somehow with him, it gets the ball rolling, and then I'm the closer and Andrew's the nurturer. So we started very simply. We started with each of us in a different position, right? We were smart about taking on the tasks as a team, not individually. And that's kind of what has been a huge success of ours from that point. So we jumped from 8 or 9 or 10, and then we jumped to 60 quite quickly, to be quite honest. And then from there, it kind of slowed down between 60 and 80, and then it started snowballing again after the 80 number. And now, as we were just discussing, we were on some calls these last 2 weeks about opening up 2 new countries with some of our own people. And now it's like next year, if we don't have 1,500 next year, it'd be surprising, to be quite honest.
Right. That's awesome. And so what specifically did, first of all, I love the approach. A lot of folks don't think about the fact that, hey, the first handful of people that you bring over, you guys can leverage each other to really grow it together. And that makes it a lot more fun too, right? It's a lot more fun when you're working with people that you like working with on something that, as exciting as this. And so what did you do specifically though? So you had the three of you had different skill sets and you guys kind of divided and conquered and it went really well. But what were you doing? What was the mechanism the contact? What was it? Were you making calls? Were you shooting video, doing content? What was it that was creating the opportunities for you? Or did you just make a list of the people you knew and go after your relationships first? Like, what was that process?
So I'll tell you, Jay, we tried everything. We did it all. So when it comes to the list, we pulled the list from the state of Florida, right? And we were like, let's go make some friends, right? So we were calling people on a regular basis, and we were reaching out to them, inviting them to lunch and learns, training events that we had at the office, virtual learning events once COVID happened. So we still use that. We don't use that as much. Another thing was having a system to follow up with agents on the other side of the deal that we were doing. And then we obviously have our top 150 list of friends that we know in the industry that we have known just for quite some time, even before the industry and things of that nature. And it was really more so about based on love, support, and education, right? Because we have agents that we're friends with at other brokerages and on other teams asking us questions like, well, how did you do this? How did you do that? And it was always keeping the lines of communication open to the point where they're like, well, how are these guys able to help me still have fun, still be top producers and recruit? They were confused as to how we were able to pull it off. So we did the list, both lists. We pulled the list, we made our own list, and training events. I mean, training events are where it's at realistically, because you're able to kind of touch everybody in a manner that isn't so selly, right? And it's more so like, how can I just help you, teach you what I know that has worked for me and others at the same time?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So that's this is a reoccurring theme in these interviews, that the focus is not around trying to recruit them. The focus is around how do we add value? How do we help them? How do we show them things that we're doing well that they can adapt, adopt, and apply to their own business? And so basically that, and then just consistently following up with those folks, they eventually started to join.
So some people would show up to lunch and learns, and we wouldn't hear from them for a while. Then suddenly they just out of the blue would call us and be like, hey, we're ready to make the switch. Some people would just switch right there at the lunch and learns. And it's really just about the follow-up. Some people aren't open to the idea just yet, whether it's, as you know, whether they're attached to their team leader, their broker, their brokerage, the idea of what it is. But it's really more so that a lot of people don't know the full concept of what is EXP, right?
Sure.
They have this branded version in their head of like, this is what it is, until they hear that out of 50 states in the US, we have the top producer in 47 of them. And then people don't know that on a regular basis. They just think it's this huge recruiting thing and that no one's producing. But I'm like, we have the top producer in 47 out of 50 states. And people are like, wait a second, what? And then they start listening more and asking themselves why it is, and then they come to us, and it's just a follow-up nurture process with us.
Right.
And we don't push anybody. You know, I always tell people either you're ready or you're not, right? And either they're open to the idea or not. And some of our agents I've had to coach through because they do get frustrated. They're like, why doesn't this person get it? I'm like, it's either the person that's delivering it, or the way it's being delivered, or maybe just the moment in time that they're in. I'm like, you got to be patient. Not everybody's going to be ready to jump on it right away. I mean, look at Gil. It took him, a year to do it, right?
Yeah.
So,
at least a year. For sure. Yeah. Timing is important. Timing is a lot of times the issue. And some people, that gate of the mind just isn't open. And you just have to keep loving on them.
Yeah. So we've had a lot of fun with that along the way. And it's just been, to be quite honest, it looks easy because of the way we do it. It's because it's not forced. That's basically it.
Right. So you just built systems and weekly we're doing trainings and it's just another KPI. How many people did you invite to the meeting? No different than the KPIs around, the real estate side. How have it sounds brilliant. So how have you been able to manage both sides of the business? I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with, which is, hey, I'm busy. You guys are selling real estate. You're busy selling real estate, and you're doing well at Agent Attraction at the same time. What was that mix of your time spent on the Agent Attraction side?
I'll tell you, it was a learning process. I failed at it the first 3 months because when we first joined, super excited about agent recruitment, and I think I did like 2 deals in those 3 months. And I was like, even my wife, she's like, what are you doing? And I was like,
right.
It's going to work out in the long run, but I need to figure out the systems. And in those 3 months, what we actually did was we kind of built out a support system for everyone, right? Because I knew that we were going to run into several problems, right? EXP is a great support, NAEA is a fantastic support. The Honey Badger Nation, even more support, right, and training. But we wanted people to feel connected. So we built out an entire support module just for our Orlando area, and then we replicated it for other areas. And basically, it looks like just documents they may need, trainings they may need, presentations they may need. And then the biggest thing, I think, to make our lives easier so that we could manage both was we started doing group chats via WhatsApp for each area, right? So we would connect all the agents. And at first, it was meant for us to give out information, updates, things to pay attention to, marketing tips, things of that nature. And then it evolved, right? It evolved into them asking us, like, well, how do you do this? I have a dilemma with this. Even things like, I've got a showing, but I can't make it. Can somebody open the door? Now I check that app and the chats. Each chat gets like 45 to 100 messages a day. And by the time I get to it, other leaders who have grown to this level are now the ones responding. So what it's done is it's built and grown other leaders inside the platform, which has allowed me to also still coach and mentor, but on a higher level that still allows me to do my business. But I've also scaled back on taking every deal, right? I've built out a leads team. They take on the deals that maybe I can't attend to or something that just might not catch my eye. So I'm handpicking which deals I'm taking on while being able to do that. But the last piece is the whole Sean and Andrew thing, right? I'm not doing this by myself. People always ask me, especially people not in the industry, they're constantly asking me, like, how did you do this? Are you really doing this well? And I'm like, yes, we are really doing this well, but it's because it's not just me, right? I have a team that's working on this day in and day out with me, holding me accountable, checking the KPIs, right? Checking the stats, the analytics. That's Andrew. He's like, well, how much did we achieve? How much did we retain? Why did we lose so-and-so? Things of that nature, right? And Sean is the other one who's like, he's the enforcer, right? He's just like, well, this needs to be done by this date. Let's knock this out. Don't forget about this, Dan. And we've got that, Andrew. And it's the balance of the personalities is super important. And we're all opposing personalities. So it actually really drives it extremely well.
Yeah, that's great, man. I love that. I love the WhatsApp. I mean, that's something that I've seen implemented. Nick Good has a really good. He uses just the chat messenger for that. WhatsApp is obviously a great solution for that. And yeah, it's community. It creates community. And what happens is it's definitely locally. People run into challenges, and some of them, you want to get them into workplace and make sure that they're connected to the whole community, because you can find someone a lot of times a lot easier, but that's your group, right? And so that's really powerful. Good stuff, man. I love the fact that y'all are dividing and conquering, because some days maybe you can't get to all the chats and maybe someone else can, and it makes it a lot easier. That's a really good nugget for folks that are listening in here. So very good, very good. So that kind of leads to some of the questions I have about how are you supporting the team? What are you guys doing on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or consistently that's keeping everyone connected, plugged in, and feeling like they're getting loved on?
So luckily we have a massive group, right? We're part of a larger group, just like the Honey Badger Nation, just like the Alliance. So luckily we've got Carlos German, who does a monthly mastermind. We plug everyone into that mastermind on the first Wednesday of every month. That is hands down key, super key. Before COVID, one of the local things that we were doing to make sure everybody stayed plugged in was we were doing a team outing on a monthly basis. And we were doing things like Top Golf or a history museum or something of that nature, then followed up by like a happy hour or a dinner or something fun. Obviously, the group grew to a massive extent, so now we're changing that. Now it's like, okay, top producers, top recruiters, we're rewarding them with bigger events, things of that nature. On a monthly consistent basis, I'll say that we take them out to new construction, or if they're in a very different area, we have them go out to a new construction and just film for the day. So these are things that kind of encourage two things. One, camaraderie, because they're all excited to do it together. They're brainstorming how to video it, how to go live, what to film, what to take photos of. And then the other part is the sales aspect, right? Because we want to make sure that we maintain that with them and upkeep their sales, because at the end of the day, if nobody sells, none of this works.
Right.
So we try to target communities at 6% or higher to make sure that their income is also staying at a hefty, lofty rate, right? Versus the 3% of resale or 2.5%. We're making sure they're getting 6, 7, 10%. I mean, you look at girls like Mava and Julie Mar, who have sold between the two of them 6, 10%ers in the last year at 400,000+. I mean, that's more than most agents make in several years. So realistically, it's more so about I don't even think it's monthly. I think we just do daily announcements, right? So when people do their first deal, we have a celebratory graphic we put in all the chats, right? When people complete the talent development program that we have, we celebrate them, take them out to lunch, put them in a chat. When they cap, we put them in we put a celebratory graphic in the chat. When they icon, we do that. When they hit X amount in stock dollars, gifted or earned, we give them a graphic for that as well. It's really more so about connecting with them on a regular basis and applauding them, celebrating them. I even take those graphics. It's not just in the chat. I put them on my personal social media because I want everybody to know how well my team is doing and how they're succeeding. And that's a bigger growth. And just being there for them on a daily basis, whether it's a contract review, a comp, CMA, things on a smaller nature. Some of these things, they already know how to do it. They just want to hear from us. And we just love to love on them. So that's kind of what we do day in and day out, monthly. The monthly mastermind for sure. The daily celebrations, the monthly outings. Those are the ways that we keep them moving on a regular basis. So
gotcha. Yeah, so those are great things, all great things. So you may have to repeat a little bit from what we've already talked about. But as far as the onboarding process, like what are the things that you're finding are the most important things getting them connected into, whether it's EXP, Honey Badger Nation, the Alliance Group? What are those? Do you have a process for that, or what does that look like?
We have an in-depth process. That was one of the first things I built that I had mentioned beforehand in those 3 months that I basically did 2 transactions.
Yeah.
I built out an entire Google Drive and a 90-day plan, right, of what they were doing. And I was a new agent. I mean, I'm only three and a half years in the biz, right? So I just walked through what I experienced, right? So I wrote everything down, put it in a manual. It was like everything from creating a Facebook business page and posting regularly to, getting your super e-key, your ELB, everything.
Yeah.
So I built out an entire platform, and since then it's evolved several times. The Alliance Group, we've all kind of combined forces and put this into one big platform. So we have, when they come in, one of us is actually walking with them through the application. You don't fill it out on your own. Whether it's virtually or physically, we are with them through the application. Afterwards, we're adding them immediately via a step chart. We have check boxes that we got to go through. Honey Badger Nation, Alliance Group, Alliance Home Team, Power Team. We're also introducing them right away to KV Core. We're introducing them to Op City right away, as well as Workplace. And we just started implementing a little bit more heavier connections into Workplace to be able to connect them, because we're discovering that if it's just one agent in Tennessee, we want to make sure that they're well connected to their local people as well. So Honey Badger Nation is great for that, and Workplace solidifies the rest of it.
Yeah.
So we have an entire 90-day plan where we're working. It used to be that we were working towards getting them a deal in their first 90 days. It's shortened it down to their first 30 days.
Nice.
And with all the steps that we're doing, it's working. I mean, some of them will do it in 35, 40 days because extensions, lending, whatever, timeline.
Right.
The idea is to make them successful and see it immediately, because they're hit with so much, especially as a new agent or even an agent less than 5 years. EXP does such a phenomenal job over the top, might I say, when it comes to introducing them to everything. It's almost like Bobby DeVito says, it's like drinking from a fire hydrant, right? You're drinking from a fire hose with all the knowledge, the education, emails. So we try to simplify it for them, give them weekly steps. It starts with the application, follows up with a launch session. Every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m., they have to attend at least one in their first 2 weeks, a launch session. That's where we go through the book of their next 90 days. Within 30 days from that, we have a boot camp at the end of every month, where it's the last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., where we teach them everything from personality profiling to contracts to things of that nature. And that's what we have them attend. Now, on a global scale, it looks a little different. They just don't have the boot camp because that's more local here. But we still have them do a launch session. We still have them go through the check boxes and the entire 90-day program. So it's intense. I mean, we really put them through the ringer because we want them to be successful and get all that education right off the rip while they're doing their first deal with an in-house mentor. Obviously, if it's somebody in Chicago, Colorado, I can only mentor them to a certain extent. So that's kind of a little bit different process. Like my guy in Colorado, he's already done 22 deals last year. His is more so of like, can you mentor me in the EXP systems and what I need and what my marketing creativity can add to it? So my conversations with Josh are a lot different than my conversations with any agent here in Orlando. But it's a step-by-step process. We have an entire book, and it's very detailed. I mean, even things like making your email signature standard with all your linked connections to all of your social media. So
Yep, that's a heavy lift, and so that 3 months investment that you made was definitely worthwhile for sure.
Absolutely, my wife is not upset by any means. No.
Right. She good now. She good. Yeah. So okay, great. So what would you say that the one thing that's helping build your FLAs, just bringing in people consistently for you? What's working for you? Because at a certain point, you kind of run out of some of the relationship people that you've talked to all of them plenty of times. And now you have to keep developing new relationships. And you mentioned the list earlier, but is there any one thing or tool or anything that you're using that's helping to create new relationships for you?
I will tell you, I stole this from a local recruit. So I take any recruitment meeting, right? Because I never know what I'm going to learn from these other recruiters, right? From other brokerages. I've learned a lot of what not to do realistically in a recruitment meeting. There's just so many things I would never do to somebody else, because it's almost like kind of sending like, oh, you don't know any better, so that's why you should be with us. And I'm like, that's not a route I want to take. But I have learned a lot of tricks from them. One of the biggest things is that almost every market that we see on a regular basis has top producers being celebrated, right? Whether it's their local MLS celebrating them as like top 20 under 40 or top 35 under 35. And what I've discovered, some of the other recruiters, so I kind of took this from them, was that I got to go make friends with these people. I got to go connect with them, see how they got there, ask them what's going on in their business, ask them if they have any challenges that they're not able to achieve. And there's specific questions that I ask them once I do meet them, right? So I don't ask them how well it's going, because we know how well it's going. I ask them either what's a headache that they've got, what's a problem that they're seeing on a regular basis, and how they plan on solving it in the next 6 months by themselves. And I'm very specific in asking that, right? So I ask them a time frame, 6 months, how they plan on solving that in 6 months, and then by themselves, because most agents at brokerages don't realize they are by themselves. EXP functions completely different. We don't do things by ourselves. Like these podcasts, things of this nature, it's really more so of all one big fire, all transparent, all the way through. And so I always ask them that, like, how are you planning on solving this by yourself? Because most times their brokers aren't really going to help them. Their team leaders might, if they're that invested, but it just depends on their scenario. So I'm finding all these people that are top 35, under 35, top 20, under 40, and just going and having lunch with them, going in and connecting with them, seeing what's working in their business, maybe even featuring them on a panel at one of my events where we bring them in as a pro expert in a certain niche or market, and kind of getting them to give us their secrets as well, because then they start meeting the community, they start seeing what they're missing, and then it grows from there. So to add to the list, once I run out of relationships, I'm targeting all those top producers or team leaders in my area that are being celebrated for their achievements. Those are the ones I'm going after.
I love it. Is there a particular reason you're going after the top producers?
Yes, 2 reasons. One, they're a lot easier when it comes to the volume of production that they've been doing, the smaller amount of training that they need because they're already doing it. And,
that's great.
And lastly, because people tried to do it to me last year, right? And I was like, this is genius. I was like, this makes so much more sense to put them in. But all in all, when it comes down to it, the reason I like to go after these producers is because EXP is built in a manner that the more you produce, the more you're rewarded, right? And like we've said before, those trophies from other brokerages are only cool to a certain extent. That trophy is not making my mortgage payment. It's not making my truck payment. It's not making my boat payment. It's not making any of those things when I get a trophy, right? But at EXP, the more we produce, the more we get rewarded. I think that people overlook that a lot and don't see that at EXP, it's the only brokerage that pays us to be there as top producers. Everywhere else, you're buying into it. You're paying to be at that brokerage. You're paying to be a part of that team. EXP is the only one that actually says, hey, you know what? You're doing so well. Here's more free stuff and more actual financially beneficial rewards for our future and ourselves.
Yeah, there's no question. I think most people they haven't, especially when you're a top producer. We call it the hustler stage, when you're doing, 30 to 80 transactions, and you're moving, and you're busy, and you definitely haven't taken the time to really look at the business model, or even worse, you haven't taken the time to look at how much money you're paying into where you're at. And so the math almost always works out, and it's because at EXP, they truly are getting paid to be at EXP. If you're a top producing agent, you're going to be getting paid to be at EXP. And that's what most people don't realize, that when they're that busy. And so you create those relationships. Those are eventually going to be a lot easier to get them to come over.
Yeah, definitely.
Good stuff, man. Great stuff. Is there any other technology or systems that you guys are using, CRM Grow, Expert Mentors, any of those types of tools that you're using, or any LinkedIn tools or anything like that?
So we are using some of the Expert Mentor Grow tools. I know that Tom Semino, one of our business partners, that's one thing that we've done very well is just take the reins off of our leaders, right, and let them experiment with everything. So Tom Semino, right. He's a great guy. He's been in the business for like over 20 plus years, has taught me a lot. He went through 2 recessions. He did REO listings. He's done for sale by owners. The man was with us at Exit and never capped at Exit for the last like 7 years. And then when we went to EXP last year, he capped. But he's supposed to be retired. So for him to get back in, get excited, cap, and then start using these tools, that's what I mean by letting go of the reins. EXP isn't about telling you what to do. It's showing you all the opportunities by which you can do it, and you just got to choose what you're happy with. So we use several different tools. The Expert Mentor Grow is one of them that Tom is specifically using. I'm targeting LinkedIn with a different. I have some virtual assistants that are setting up appointments, setting up phone calls, setting up meetings for me on a regular basis. Sean, I don't know how Sean Romano does it, to be quite honest. He's got 0 systems, and the man has recruited like 14 in the last like 60 days. And I don't know how he's doing it, but he just keeps bringing them in, and they're producing right off the bat. So I got to find out what systems he's using right now to kind of double down on that. But I will say that being able to funnel somebody in to these funnels makes a world of a difference, because not everybody's going to be ready right off the bat. And putting them into these funnels with Expert Mentor Grow and things like that makes it easier to be able to pick up the conversation when they're ready, right? So it exposes them to the idea, puts them through the funnel, and then we can kind of pick it up as we're ready to seize that opportunity realistically. So
right. Anything in particular you guys do for follow up that's working really well?
We have a board and a chart, and I don't know if you've seen it, but it takes up the entire wall in our office. Sean got like the biggest one that you could possibly get. So right next to it, we've got a dry erase board now, and it's got everybody in there in the last date they were touched. And so Andrew Brooks is like our accountability business partner, right? So he'll go through not just all of our mentees, but he'll go through that list as well of people that we need to follow up with on a regular basis, whether it's just a, hey, how you doing? Or, hey, we haven't caught up, or just an invite. One of the good things that we really are awesome at following up at is any events that we have upcoming, a text automatically goes out to everybody that we're working on to invite them to that event, whether it's local or Cabo. It doesn't matter. We are working on that. So long as they meet the requirements, obviously. Some of these masterminds, we know that there's levels to it. But when we seize the opportunity, it's almost like a fun time, right? So we have a friend of ours that we've been working on for quite some time. When we were flying out to Puerto Rico, right, to open that up, I texted him. I was like, hey, this was supposed to be a work trip, but there's 15 of us going. You down to go? And he was like, he goes, oh man, if I wasn't flying to the UK, like I would go with you guys. But we take every opportunity to do things together to show how we work as a team and a family, right? So any event that we've got, that list automatically gets a text message every single time.
And that's coming out of what? What is that coming out of tool wise?
Tool wise, it's coming out of we've actually been leveraging KV Core.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Yeah.
We've been leveraging KV Core a lot. So we have all of our agents in there. Like for Colombia, for example, to get them all onto the webinar, it wasn't just with the expglobal.partners website. We actually manually input everybody into our KV Core. We're talking 340, 350 agents. And we're the ones controlling the communication, right? We're sending them, hey, reminder update about the Colombia webinar on the details, right? Now we've got a follow-up one this week of like getting ready for the application, because that comes out Monday. So on Monday afternoon, after I've already reviewed the application with the 2 that we have guaranteed, once I see how that process works, then we're going to have a webinar Zoom explaining to everyone, hey, if you're ready to go, let us know this is how we do it. We walk through the process ourselves first to be able to do that. But we put them all into KB Core because it's so simple to just highlight everybody. Like we have the Alcon team for Colombia. So we've labeled them hashtag Alcon Colombia. And so anybody in KB Core, hashtag Alcon Colombia, gets the same email or text at exactly the same time all across the board. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Love that. That's great. Lots of great systems in place and communication. No doubt I can see why the group is growing the way it is. Anything you guys are doing with like announcements or going live on Facebook or anything of that nature?
So we were doing that for a while, and then we got really caught up with life. We got really caught up with actually flying to Puerto Rico, actually,
doing real live. Yeah.
But we are going live from certain areas, but it's funny how we do it because we're not necessarily on a time schedule, and we're not necessarily showcasing like, oh, this event is what we're doing. Like when we went down there and did the lunch and learn, the EXP Unpacked and all that stuff, we weren't going live for that. That's more of a private event. We were going live on the island, right? We were going live when we went out to Palomino on the boats. Like, this is what our life really looks like. Because what we're trying to showcase is how EXP changed our life and the physical format. Because everybody can showcase all these great masterminds, all these great summits, all these great trainings. But a lot of people are starting to catch on to what we're doing when it comes to it. And a lot of other team leaders, brokerages are trying to do the same thing. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to showcase how we normally live, like getting an Airbnb for the whole group, going out and getting the ocean fishing charters and taking us out to Colorado. We're trying to showcase those fun factors to show that our life isn't just business. It's a lot of fun mixed in because we've been allowed and granted this opportunity.
Yeah, lifestyle, baby. Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're down to the last couple questions here. So what would you say, what do you feel like is the biggest mistake that you see agents making that are struggling with agent attraction?
I mentioned it earlier, but I'll repeat it in a different way. I always tell people, Dave Kennard says this all the time too, stop EXPing on everybody.
Yeah.
So there's two mistakes that I see everybody do, right? Right off the rip, they want to make a billion connections and they want to go recruit. Without any systems, without any mindset. They're just like, oh, let me go into this Orlando real estate mastermind or this lab coat agents group and just go friend request everybody. A lot of things that are mistakes that our agents are making is not coming from a standpoint of value, not coming from a standpoint of caring, and not actually having that relationship to begin with. When we first joined, yes, we got really excited about recruitment. We did a lot of things the wrong way. We were just blabbing about EXP to everybody, all the systems, and not realizing that most people are only attaining a small portion of what we're actually saying. So when we say rev share, stock, gifted, and discounted, and then we've got the concierge, you start confusing them, right? Because they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much, I don't want to hear it anymore, and I've heard it from everybody else. So what we started doing was asking them what their exit plan is, right? We started asking different questions when it came to speaking with them. Once we built the relationship, once we made friends with them, we started asking them a lot of questions, and figuring out what they cared about most, right? Because you and me, we cared about everything EXP. All of it makes sense to us.
Right.
But to most general agents, it's only going to be one or two things, whether it's the technology, the future vision of it, or just the stocks, or just the rev share, or just the icon agent status. You got to ask a lot of questions to get to know them, to see what actually motivates them and drives them, and then dive into that portion.
Right.
But the key factor to most of these people is they don't realize how to build a relationship first, because you got to get to the people first. You got to come from a standpoint of value, as you know, because you guys built out NAEA. What I've been doing is I've been tackling it with humor, right? So what's really popular right now is like all those real estate memes, right? And everybody always brands it with their watermark, with Honey Badger Nation or something of that nature. When I see a trend or something very gimmicky or comicky, I go ahead and I create a watermark and I'll put it out there for the real estate community. And what I'll put is I'll put a funny caption with it, but at the bottom of the caption, I'll say, shoot me a message if you want this unbranded version for yourself to post, right? What ends up happening is when I put it in those groups, my inbox gets flooded with at least 200 messages. And I have a copy and paste message that goes back to them. Say, hey, do me a favor. I love you guys to death. If you guys could go and like my business page real quick, here I'll send it to you anyways. But if you could go and like my business page, that would be great. So I don't force them to like my business page.
Right.
I ask them. I'm like, hey, I would love it if you could give me some support on my business page. And then I just send it to them automatically. Here's the unbranded version anyways, right? And what ends up happening is the algorithm on Facebook then tightens up between us, right? So they start seeing all of my posts and everything. And then they start
That's brilliant.
So I basically funnel them in with love. That's it.
Right.
I'm like, here, I'm going to give you this funny meme, blah, blah, blah. And if I don't have a meme, I create a meme. About a year and a half ago, I created a meme that went viral, and people use it still to this day. And it was a joke on a South Park episode. There was an episode where these two guys are like yelling at each other. They're like, I'm not your buddy, guy. I'm not your guy, pal. I'm not your friend, guy. And it goes in a circle, right?
Right.
So I'm sitting there watching this episode, like a recap of this little funny segment. And I look at my wife and I said, give me your phone real quick. And she's like, why? And I was like, I'm going to create a meme right now. So I created a fake meme. And it was basically between text messages. So from her phone, I made it seem like as if it was a wrong number text, like asking for something funny. And it was like, oh, I think you got the wrong number, guy. And then from her phone, I wrote, I'm not your guy, pal. And then I went back and forth a few times in the text message. And then I finally ended up with, I texted myself to my wife's phone. I said, you wouldn't be happen to be in the market to buy or sell a home, would you? And then the person, I texted back myself and said, actually, I am. Let's talk more. So I fake created
that's great.
off of nothing, screenshotted it, and posted it with the watermark everywhere. And to this day, you'll still see it go around. You'll see my watermark cropped out, or you'll see the color vary differently. And people are like, oh, look at this funny conversation I had with a client. I'm like, I literally made that up with my wife. Like, it's not even real. It didn't even happen to me. But I took the opportunity to do that, and I put it out there. And what happens is when you put something else like that out there, it's so funny, it's going to take off no matter what you do. And so as long as you approach it in the right manner by giving people the freebie opportunity, they're gonna come back. You know, Randy Rand, our old Florida broker, said it once and said it so well. Give, and give some more. And then give again. Because when you do that and you're adding value, especially in something so simple that's not even mine, I fake made that up, right? Created it out of nothing and gave it out to the real estate community. They can go and attract more clients by humor. And that's what I've been trying to teach people lately is humor breaks all barriers. So if you can find a way to use humor to break down that barrier and create that relationship, end all be all right there. I tell you, the amount of people that are agents that follow my platforms and my social media and see it on a regular basis and are asking me questions, those are the people that are going to join next year. And then their friends the year after that. This is a game of chess, not checkers. And that's where I play into it all the time. And that's something that I think everybody can be utilizing. And the biggest mistake is EXPing and blabbing too much without knowing what they actually care about. Those are the two things. And then not knowing how to create the relationship. That's it.
Right. That's great stuff, man. Very, very good stuff. So you mentioned like right where we started, like where you think it's going to go. What is your 12-month goal for where you would like to see the group in a year from now?
So our group next week, I hope it's double, to be quite honest, with Colombia. I really do. And with the two countries that we've been talking about with Jasper and Michael about opening up with our agents, this time next year, you know, I was hoping to be at 500, or I was hoping to be at 300 by the end of this year, right? Right. And it looks like we might hit that mark next week or in the next 3 weeks. Right. So we're super early. Did not expect Colombia to be coming around the corner this soon. Yep. And I was hoping to be 300 by the end of the year. So we're saying 550 to 600 by the end of this year if we don't open up one of those two countries. If we do open up one of those two countries, it'll be at 1,000. And then by the end of next year, if we're able to do those two countries, we'll be at anywhere between 1,200 and 2,000. Down.
Yep. Love it, man. You're doing a great job, man. You've definitely got the systems in place. Lots of great nuggets that you shared here. I appreciate you taking the time to do that. And if you're not an EXP and you're watching this, you probably ought to get a hold of Dan and see if maybe you could partner with him. So, hey, man, I appreciate you. Lots of love, my friend. And if there's anything I can do for you, always just reach out, my friend.
I appreciate it. Listen, man, answering my calls all the time, that's the ticket, man. Being able to reach out to you, man. I appreciate it.
Anytime, man. You got it, bud. Later, man. Take care.